Previously, we took a look at canceled Disney movies on the channel, and today we're continuing where we left off, with even more canceled projects. Our first canceled movie of the day is Army Ants. Before we had A Bug's Life, Ants with a Z, and even the terrifying Ant Bully, years prior, Disney planned on making Army Ants, a movie about warring ants with the main character being a pacifist, which is a pretty similar concept to A Bug's Life, so I really don't think we're missing out on much. But something that we are missing out on, and probably the most interesting canceled Disney movie, is a prequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. My first time watching Roger Rabbit was only about a year ago, and I quite enjoyed it. The canceled prequel has gone under many names, but the most popular, and my favorite, is Roger Rabbit 2: The Toon Platoon. If this movie was made, we would have seen Roger Rabbit meeting Jessica Rabbit for the first time, as well as Roger Rabbit finding out that he was adopted. This would leave him wanting to find his birth parents, the main story beat of the movie. But considering it was a prequel, it would also take place prior to the first movie, during World War II, and Roger Rabbit would be fighting 1940 German soldiers. He would go on this adventure with a minor character from the original movie, Baby Herman, and at the end of the movie, his father, out of all people, would be revealed to be Bugs Bunny. Roger Rabbit's father is Bugs Bunny. Although this movie has been cancelled, I don't think it's impossible that we'll never see it again. Disney has been loving to revisit long-dead franchises as of late, and if they were to revisit Roger Rabbit, whether they followed the story of the cancelled movie or made a new one, I'd be ready to buy tickets. That being said, they'd probably make it a Disney Plus one, so maybe don't. Unless, of course, they try to make it a good movie. Next up, we have a long-forgotten movie.
It would be so awesome.
Disney planned to create a Puss in Boots movie back in the 90s, but I think it's for the best that they canceled this one, as the two DreamWorks ones we ended up with, I thought were totally tubular. And now we have one that's confusing why Disney even attempted to adapt it in the first place, The Tales of Homer's Odyssey. I don't really know how they would convert a story so long and violent into an animated movie appropriate for all ages, so understandably it was cancelled. Sinbad was originally planned to be created by Disney before being cancelled. Eventually, DreamWorks created their own Sinbad, and although I haven't seen it in 10 plus years, I remember liking it. Disney's Swan Lake was cancelled due to a competing studio creating the Swan Princess. And although another movie I haven't seen in a very long time, I remember it also being good. Well, maybe not good, but I do remember watching it. John Carter is easily one of the biggest flops of all time, managing to lose $200 million. But Disney previously considered making an animated version of the film a year prior. As far as their wallets go, they might have made the wrong decision here. But John Carter ended up being a good, if a bit forgettable movie. Disney, in partnership with the same studio that created The Nightmare Before Christmas, aka the guy from Hot Topic, was going to make Toots and the Upside Down House, about a girl who could create a fantasy world with the villain being Jack Frost. But the movie was cancelled due to Disney shutting down the studio after they were unable to turn a profit with James and the Giant Peach. This next movie isn't terribly interesting, but the reason for it being cancelled certainly is. Wildlife, a movie about an elephant becoming a pop star, was cancelled due to being too inappropriate for younger audiences, with its suggestive humor. Now, I have heard that this story might not be true, and the movie was possibly just cancelled due to production difficulty, but I choose to believe that the elephant was too much to handle. Also, there's a joke in the movie, or apparently a joke in the movie. Have you ever looked down a manhole before? Maybe it was for the best this one was cancelled. We're on to our first cancelled Disney direct-to-video sequel, Atlantis II. And there actually was an Atlantis II, but it was made from footage of a scrap TV show. The original Atlantis II would have been a proper sequel, with the surprise returning villain, Helga St. Clair. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Atlantis, but this cancelled sequel would have been leagues better than what we ended up with. And another cancelled sequel was Dumbo 2. They got pretty far into creating this one before cancelling the project, far enough to even plan on making a third Dumbo movie. Why? Hercules was also planned to have a proper direct-to-video sequel. No Hercules Zero to Hero, you don't count. This movie would have been Hercules 2. Well, no shit. This movie would have been called Hercules 2: The Trojan War, where we would once again see the faces of Hercules and Megara, but also their daughter Hebe. We would also see Helen and Paris introduced. Although I love the idea of a sequel to Hercules, this idea, well, not a bad one, is missing something. The sense of grand adventure from the first one. Mind you, I am just going off what little information we have about it. The story is missing the mythical and godly elements of the first one. The movie most likely would have had some magical creatures, but going from the villain being Hades, the god of the underworld, to just some guy is a big step down. I would have loved a sequel that introduced the gods missing from the first one, like Poseidon. Stonefly would have been a movie about gargoyles that rescue children from abusive families. There's not a lot of information on this one, but it might have been cancelled due to Disney already making the Gargoyle series. That's just me speculating though. It's another one of those cancelled projects with not a lot of information out there. The Frog Prince was planned but scrapped. Years later we got the film that we have now, The Frog Princess. I'm not the biggest fan of The Frog Princess, but for those who are, it's pretty cool to know that the movie you like could have ended up being a lot different. The Nightmare Before Christmas 2 was cancelled, not by Disney, but by Tim Burton requesting Disney to do so. And surprisingly it worked. I've never actually seen the entirety of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I believe I saw the first half years ago, like 3 separate times. But judging by how much merchandise they continue to make of Jack Skellington, he is Mr. Hot Topic after all. This is by far the most likely cancelled Disney movie to eventually happen. If not a direct sequel, possibly a prequel, or the inevitable live-action remake, please don't. Disney was expecting Treasure Planet to be a success. Unlike in reality when it flopped at the box office, big time, they were expecting it to be a big enough success to start working on the sequel before the movie even came out. But after seeing how much money it lost, Disney pulled the plug on any potential sequel. The movie would have been a direct-to-video sequel, and a brand new villain, Ironbeard, voiced by Mr. Green Goblin William Dafoe. The cancelled Disney movie My Peoples would have been a hybrid of 2D and 3D animation, and got far enough into development to have test screenings, but was shut down for a couple of reasons. First, the branch working on it was shut down, but that didn't happen until the movie was already announced to be cancelled, so I'm not really sure what type of effect that had on the project. But they were having complications with just overall development and creating the story. And finally, they scrapped it in order to pursue making Chicken Little. Chicken Little killed My Peoples. Was that the right decision? I don't know.
Gucci, you just made a date with Gucci. Oh!
As for an odd one, up until 2003, Disney was working on a Three Little Pigs movie, set to be another hybrid animation. I think what's weird about this one is just how recently they were still considering making such a classic fairy tale like the Three Little Pigs. But we don't need that. We have the Three Little Pigs and a Baby, starring Tom Kenny, SpongeBob,
I'm SpongeBob.
Uncle Stillskin, not Rumpelstiltskin, would have been set after the events of the original fable, where he would proceed to kidnap another baby. And by the end of the movie, understand the meaning of family. He's a kidnapper! There's no information on why this one was cancelled, but I have a feeling it might have to do with him being a kidnapper. Frady Cat was a project heavily inspired by the works of Alfred Hitchcock. The movie would have centered around a nervous cat being framed for the neighbor's missing kidnapped pet. It was probably Rumpelstiltskin. Oops, my bad. Uncle Stillskin. The movie was cancelled due to the doubt audiences would be interested in a movie so inspired by Alfred Hitchcock. But I think they were wrong here, because although not much, what I have seen of the concept art, I'd be interested in. There was also a planned Aladdin 4. Yes, 4. This might come as a surprise to people that didn't even know there was a second or third Aladdin. Although I like the other 2 direct-to-video sequels a fair amount, I think it was the right decision to stop at 3 instead of milking the franchise, as there really isn't anywhere else they could go with the story. They already had the return of Jafar and Aladdin's father, so I really don't know where it could even continue. So with that, we're done talking about cancelled Disney movies for today. There's still quite a lot that I haven't talked about, so in the future, I might make another video about even more cancelled Disney movies. Or perhaps DreamWorks or just cancelled movies in general.